So here's another venue on cell size and function, and when bigger is not actually better. So let's get right into it. This little guy right here, he just got the iPhone 30, and it seems like the iPhone itself is taller and wider than the actual person, so that's pretty sad. Yeah, bigger is not always better. Why not go big? So why shouldn't cells be bigger and much more larger when compared to other cells? This is exactly why. The reason is positive is it requires no energy for diffusion to occur. However, the con is it still takes time, and time is the most important factor. Nobody has time, not even cells. The IB life. Slow and inefficient over long distances, especially within the cell. So that's what happens to diffusion. It takes time because diffusion is a multi-step process where you have a high concentration gradient, and then that gradient explodes and it spreads out. But what happens is if it had to spread out over, let's say, a bowling ball, it could do so easily. But if it has to spread out over an entire NBA court, that'd be taking a really, really long time. So the size is definitely relative to how long it takes for diffusion to occur, which is the biggest con. In cells, there has to be diffusion of nutrients and other important chemicals within the cell. And if this is taking a long time to happen, it might just be that time difference could lead to the survival or death of the cell. So it's definitely really important for diffusion to happen quick. Pro to diffusion obviously is that it needs no energy, but we need it to take as less time as possible. So here's an example cell. It's 0.6 millimeter. That's not meters. It should be millimeters. 0.6 millimeters long, 0.5 millimeters wide from this perspective here. So if diffusion was to start at this point, diffusion would have to happen to spread the nutrients out everywhere. Now, in order for the nutrients which start as located here to reach this point right here, it'd take a longer period of time. So the upper limit is imposed on cell size. So now let's talk about cell size. A larger surface area allows for more places where molecules can diffuse into the cell from the environment. So this has a large surface area, so molecules could potentially enter from here, from here, from here, from here, wherever the hell you want. Sometimes it could even just like go like that, enter from there. So the larger the surface area, the more there's actually, the more cell membrane there's around the cell, the more places for molecules, proteins, nutrients, whatever, to enter into the cell. So that's a positive. We want a larger surface area, but we don't want a large volume, because if the volume is too large, then the rate of diffusion, as I described, would definitely get decreased. So this is a large group of cells which probably form a tissue, multiple molecules entering in at any given time. So like I just said, for efficient transport of the nutrients, a cell must have a large surface area to volume ratio. It's a ratio. We want to have a large ratio to make sure that there's efficient transport. So determining the surface area to volume ratio is actually very simple. So let's try it out. So we have cuboid cells, which is never really true, but let's just pretend there are. So 1 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 2.5. Let's actually just do the 2.5. So let's draw a cube, and oh my god, this is going to be the worst cube we have. The cube though. Ooh. 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 So since it's a cube, we know it has side length 4 here, side length 4 here, side length 4 here. Now to get the surface area, we do 4, oh my god, times 4, which gets me 16. Now multiply that by 6, which gets me 16. This is 96. Struggling. Blah 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 blah. 96 is the surface area that I got. The volume would equivalent to 4 times 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 gets me 64. And yeah, so because it's a surface area to volume ratio, we have to put the surface area first. So we got the 96 as the surface area and the 64 as the volume. And now these are actually common fractions, so we can reduce them down. And what would they be reduced? Well, simply 3 over 2. And if you can't see that, sorry, get better at math or kill yourself. Yeah. But yeah, I can tell that because there's factors, they're both factors of 32. Because 32 times 2 equals 64 and 32 times 3 equals 96. So your final surface area to volume ratio is 3 to 2. Let's continue. That question will be answered. So this was the first cell that we saw in the questions in the back, and it's 1 by 1 by 1. So the surface area is actually 1 centimeter squared multiplied by 6 because there's 6 sides, which gets you 6 centimeters squared. Now they're going to do the volume, 1 times 1 times 1, which is just going to get you 1. And the surface area to volume ratio is 6 to 1. So it's just 6.0 centimeters. The other cell that we saw, the one that we actually did, 4 by 4 by 4, and it got us to 16. 16 multiplied by 6 because there's 6 sides, and that gets us to 96 centimeters squared. And then once again, the 4 by 4 by 4 to get us to 64. And 96 over 64 is actually just 3 over 2, or 1.5 if you're a decimal fag. The third cell, we had 2.5 by 2.5 by 2.5, gets you 6.25 times 6, which will get you 37.5. And then we get the volume for those, and we get 15.625. There's not really any common factors, so at that time the decimal kids would actually be happy because that's much more easier. And you got it. So now we have to determine which one was actually the most effective surface area to volume ratio. So we had established that we need to have a large surface area to volume ratio. So let's see which one actually gave us the best one. The options that we had were, 1 second, one was the 6.0, the other one was the 1.5, and the final one was 2.4. So the one that gives us the largest surface area to volume ratio is definitely the first one, with the 1 to 1 to 1. So that just means that this cell, which has a surface area to volume ratio of 6, would be able to diffuse the nutrients over the larger cell at the most efficient rate when compared to all the other cells, and the passage of nutrients would be simplified the most. Once again, this was just simply derived by calculating the surface area and dividing it by the volume. Wow, I feel like the Khan Academy guy. Blessed.